Hello there, and welcome back to Boardroom Insights with Alan O'Neill. You may have listened or watched last week's episode when I interviewed Paco Underhill. Paco is the retail anthropologist who is well known around the world for his observations about consumer behavior and how customers move around stores and therefore how retailers need to react in order to maximize productivity and maximize sales per square foot. So there was so much in last week's episode that I thought I would take some time today to link some of the nuggets that Paco shared with us and merge them in with my 7 steps to profit, because there is an obvious link with several of the things that he mentioned, and it directly fits with my 7 steps. So I'm going to start with step number 1. Step number 1 is having a clearly defined North Star. Well, Paco and I discussed the scene, the department store scene in the US, where department stores are closing, while as in the rest of the world, department stores tend to be owned in the main by maybe families or businesses locally. There isn't the same level of closures around the world, other than in the US. And part of the reason is that private equity houses have been doing their shenanigans and buying into department stores. And of course, when they do that, they've got a very high expectation of return. So effectively what's happening for some of the department stores is that they are being run by Wall Street rather than by the needs and the best fit for the local community. So it's a good reminder for all of us, what are you about? What's your North Star? Are you a customer-centric organization, or are you a spreadsheet-centric organization, is the way Paco put it. That moves us on to step number 2, which in my 7 steps is culture. And culture is all about behavior. Then, of course, that translates through to the front line in terms of how our people look after our customers. And you might remember I mentioned that in Paco's clinics, particularly the one in Brown Thomas, which I accompanied him on, and the one in Selfridges, he made a point of visiting the facilities of the colleagues, of the team that worked there. And this was a curiosity for many, but he wanted to see what it was like for those coming in. When they come in first thing in the morning, what experience do they get from their own employer? Remember, they're the people we want to go onto the shop floor and look after our customers. So how we treat them, and you've heard me saying this many times before, how we treat our own people has a huge impact on how they treat our customers. I remember us doing some work with Disney some years ago in Florida, and I was very struck by what they call the casting center. So around the back of the Disney park, where applicants or candidates come in to explore whether they are a good fit for Disney. Now, keep in mind that Disney in Florida is built on a swamp. So it's completely flat land. But of course, they've created a city where all of the underground is on the ground level. Then the actual entertainment, the rides and so on, are on top of that. But in the back of the park, they have deliberately created the cast recruitment center on a slight incline. So first of all, the handles on the doors as you enter the building are goofy in the shape of Goofy. So that's sending a message about the kind of brand that you're entering, the fun zone, that you're going to be providing entertainment to customers. Then when you walk in, there's a bust of Mickey Mouse facing you. And as I remember then, you turn left and you walk up an incline. Now this is a deliberate incline. The incline is not necessary because after all, it is on flat land, but they deliberately create this atmosphere of you're now starting your career in Disney and you're ascending your career ladder. Subtlety, and you might say, well, is that really necessary? Well, do you know something? It's all those small details that Disney are famous for. But it's setting a culture from the very beginning of fun, of entertainment, of looking after our people. That leads me on to strategy. And strategy is all about creating your plan. And here is where Paco talked about being very, very clear about your thinking here about global versus local. You might remember he mentioned there's a store in Florida, in one of the big chain stores, and they're selling down, in other words, fur coats. In Florida, the warmest city in the US. And this is where the strategy around this particular company is not thought through. They're applying a cookie cutter approach to the whole brand instead of being selective and curating what is needed in each store. So be careful, therefore, about your strategy Is it fit for purpose? Are you thinking it through? Is your strategy considered strategy, or is it just words on paper? That sets us up then for step number 4, which is people. And people is all about having the right leadership and, of course, engaged people. Paco gave the example of generals win the wars when they go to the front. An unusual analogy in these times, but you get the point that it's about managers being down on the shop floor, whether it be a retail business or whether it be a B2B. Managers, leaders need to be in touch. They need to be in connecting in with the front line, rather than just staying in the ivory tower of the back office or the top floor and just being removed from it all. So whatever your business, be sure that you are regularly connecting in with what's going on at the front line. That moves us on to step number 5, which is customer. And customer is where, in the general terms, it's about segmenting customers and then how we connect with them in terms of messaging and so on, and the customer service that they get on a day-to-day interaction. And Paco here talked about knowing your customer. So again, it links back to strategy, but really knowing your customer. You see, for many of us in our businesses, we tend to become very operational. We get pulled down into the weeds because there's always things to be done, fires to be put out, and that's life. That's understandable. But we need to take time out to stand back and consider our customer journey, whether we're B2C or B2B. Paco's book is all about the customer journey, why we buy, the psychology of how customers buy, but not just the psychology, but even the practical ways we lay out our merchandise and our aisles. Take that same messaging over to the world of B2B. Are we thinking about our customers and what it's like for them? For example, if you're a distributor in a beverage company, what's it like for your customers who want to replenish stock, place an order? How is that experience between online and contact centers and sales representatives? It's about being considered. And that's the amazing thing that Paco brings and has brought to many around the world. We kind of know this stuff already, and it's only when somebody like Paco comes on with his fresh pair of eyes and he holds the mirror up to what we ourselves are doing that you kind of say, oops, we should have thought of that. And yes, we should have thought of it. But that's the reality of our world. We don't always think of it. As I said already, we get caught up in the weeds of what we're doing. So, final point, take time out to think about your customer experience. I always remember, I'm going back here 30 years, working with a bank in Ireland, and they were doing a lot of work around customer service. And I went out mystery shopping some of the branches, and these were the days when there were glass panels for the tellers on one side and the customers on the other. And having visited a number of the branches of this particular brand and looking in from the customer's perspective through the glass panels, all you could see was just havoc and chaos and a mess. Desks that were treated like as if it was somebody's one of the team's personal domain, with photographs of the family, spare shoes under the desk, bags on the floor, wires going everywhere, sitting on top of the desk. I'm not exaggerating. And that's where nobody in that branch had taken the time to stand outside from the customer's perspective and look back in. That's what this is saying. That's what Paco is saying. Be considered. Think about what it's like for your customer, whoever your customers might be. And that sets us up then for step number 6, which is proposition. Now, proposition is all about identifying your product, your place, and your people. Your product is your mix, being clear about your mix and ensuring that your mix and your merchandise assortment, whatever, B2C or B2B, is fit for the customers that you want to serve and service. So taking time to stand back and think about, what are your USPs? What makes you special? What makes you stand out from the others, from your very, very busy competition? And do that under each leg of the stool. So under product, what can you use to differentiate yourself? Under place, meaning your route to market, how can you differentiate yourself? And people, how can you differentiate yourself? Now, those 3 legs of the stool are not always equal. Each customer that you're servicing may judge you on all 3 at different levels from time to time. But here's the point. We need to be considerate of all 3, which sets us up then for execution. And execution then is where we spend 99.9% of our time. And once again, you'll hear me say, I've said it on many times before, and it also comes through in Paco's comments, that execution is about getting the job done, doing the right thing. But of course, if you've put the effort into the previous 6 steps, the likelihood of execution being somewhat seamless, in as much as seamless can be in this day and age, you know what I mean, but it reduces and it mitigates any likelihood of things going wrong. So that's it. And if you haven't listened to Paco's episode, go and listen to it now, because it's well worth a listen. Don't think of him just as a retailer. Think of him as somebody who really knows how to get into the mindset of the customer, whether you're B2B or B2C. That's it from me. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week with my next guest. Have a great day. Are you ready to grow profit with less stress, more clarity, and a strategy that actually sticks? That's why I created the 7 Steps to Profit, a practical business framework that helps leadership teams align their strategy, culture, people, customer, and execution so that profit naturally follows. For over 30 years, I've worked with leaders across every industry, and the one truth that always holds: when the different parts of your business are aligned, everything gets easier. So if you're tired of firefighting, tired of silos, it's time to transform how your business works. Our work is also supported by our own organisation health assessment to give you clarity on what you need to focus on. Give us a call today for a no-strings discovery call. In the meantime, visit 7stepstoprofit.com. That's the number 7.